Getting our friends together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Today. Must be 21 plus. Not available in all locations. Man, I wish they had Drizzly when I used to play D&D and Riffs. Maybe it's time for me to start again. Thanks, Drizzly.
The podcast playground.
Hooray! Hey, it's my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, sing. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Hey there, hold it right there. You got something on your face. Ew, I think it's a booger. You may wanna, I'll wait. It's kinda, no, you're getting it. Awesome. Well, if you haven't figured it out by now, it's your old pal, the friendly neighborhood Snider man, Jesse Blaze Snider, the coolest geek alive. Howdy. 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 How are you? How are you? How are you? And you in the back? Good? Everybody good? How you doing? How you doing, y'all? I'm doing good. This amazing report was released the other day, and I just felt like it said so much about the reality of the world we're living in, which I believe is being mischaracterized, or more to the point, character assassinated every day of the week on the news and in social media, with people being turned into kind of caricatures of human beings more and more all the time. And what happens when you do that is that's right, you dehumanize people. And all sorts of things can happen in society when swaths of the population stop having any empathy for other swaths of the population. Like, as of now, I just see constantly the Democrats having zero sympathy, whatever, for the Republicans, and the Republicans generally returning that same energy back to them, not having any empathy for them. Fortunately, there's a huge swath of people of equal size of the two groups in the center, just dealing with all of you people being rude to each other. But even within these groups, it's just the groups of people that are participating. They're just, all of these people are individuals, and there's so many individuals that crop up. We think in these stupid caricature terms about race and sex and all these things because of films and TV, which do a very piss poor job in communicating the diversity of life that's all around us. And I really think across the board, when you get into so much of the inclusion that we've even gotten, and the diversity that we've gotten even in the past bunch of years, it tends to not actually be the type of diversity and inclusion that I think we want most, which has more depth to it than unfortunately most of the people running studios in Hollywood don't really have at the moment. So they can only kind of be pointed in a certain direction, but they can't necessarily be trusted to do the right thing. Because if they were, let's say, case in point, like actors who are black, generally speaking, they get like coached to do a certain kind of voice and to act a certain kind of way within like a limited range. Because if you go in there and you've got a thick Boston accent, or you sound like you're from somewhere where white people are generally associated with, a lot of times it just kind of screws up the casting people, because they're like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's not something that people understand. They want to fit you into a box. They want to make you something that they can wrap their head around. It's one of the reasons why I hated going out for commercials when I was a teenager in my early 20s. You could make a lot of money being in a commercial on television, something that, let's say, plays on the Super Bowl or whatever, being an actor, even if you're not speaking. The old union rules that you had for commercials like that were on network television were insane. So there was a small period of time where I was going out on commercial auditions as an actor. And I was, I don't know, a rock and roll kid. I was in a rock and roll band. At the time, I had really long hair, long blonde hair, whatever. I could feel myself be rejected for gigs the moment I walked in the door. Eventually, I could also feel myself be chosen for gigs when I walked in the door, because when it is the right thing that your type, your superficial looking type, is the right person to cast for, as soon as they see you, they know that you're possibly on their list. So I used to go into things all the time, and I could tell the casting director was just looking at me going, this person's wrong. This is not the thing that I have pictured in my mind. And we have very limited ideas pictured in our mind about different races until we interact with lots of people of that race. And we have different things in our minds about aliens until we start interacting with aliens. You know, somebody says something like, are the aliens good or are the aliens bad? What a stupid question that is. The aliens are like all of us human beings. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. They're not all in cahoots together. Nobody's all in cahoots together. It's not this organized. In reality, there is a bunch of unique individuals loosely connected together through families and whatnot. And within these families, there are the devout members of the religious family, and there are the less than devout members of the religious family. And throughout these families of drug addicts, there are the ones who don't do the drugs and pick them up from the frickin' stupors at the bars and enable the other ones to do what they're doing. Most families and clans and groups of people working together, it's not just one type of uniform person. There isn't a type of uniform person. You know, we've run away with this idea of specialness in the wrong ways. Everybody's special at volleyball. No, everybody's not special at volleyball. Everybody's not special at dodgeball. Everybody's not special at art. Everybody's not special at writing. But everybody is special. Everybody does have something in them that urges them forward, something that interests them so much that they get really good at it and they become really valuable because their love and their passion gets harnessed in some fabulous way, because everybody has love and passion to harness in something. And you know what? Somebody's thing that is like really fabulous might actually be them just being a mom and a grandmom and a member of your family. Sometimes that's it. Sometimes it's just your sister. She does what she does, but she takes care of all the brothers, and she takes care of the other members of the family, and she works at the homeless shelter. And like everybody has their own slot to fill. We're not just, those are the Republican Hick family, and they're all exactly the same, and they all think in lockstep. No, they don't. Nobody thinks in lockstep with everybody else, even though it tends to seem that way when you're on social media and stuff, because there's a lot of people virtue signaling, and there's a lot of people trying to get work and play a game of, yes, you said this, I'll say this too. I'm like you. I'm a nice human as well. Please hire me, nice human. I nice human. You nice human. Me nice human. Everybody's trying to play a game of I'm nice human. Okay, but also now people are playing a game of me nice human, you sucky human. And that game sucks. It fucking sucks. And if you're out there playing that game, please just stop it. Stop it. If you love fantasy and you love comic books and you love these things, you love these people who are idealists, who are fighting for a better world, fight for a better world here on the outside in the real world by not playing into demonization and preventing conversation. There is, you know, these numbers that I'm about to show you really demonstrate how much more even the surface that we're all standing on is. Because I'm telling you right now, this isn't a 50-50 Disney's liked, Disney's hated survey, and everybody who hates them is Republicans, and everybody who loves them is the Democrats. That's not how it works. One, it can't work that way because that's a bullshit reality that they've created where they're making people choose Democrats or Republicans. More people are in the middle. So I've got numbers. I've got numbers for the people on the left and the people in the middle. I don't have all the numbers because this was behind a paywall, and I was able to get certain numbers from a couple different people who did articles and stuff on it. And I'm just going to go over the articles that I have, and I'm going to kind of boil them down a little bit so we can look at them in a couple different ways. But anyway, 1,100 Americans were surveyed at the end of September 2023 by Rasmussen Reports. Okay. Of these people surveyed, 51% said that they viewed Disney, the company, favorably. 40% said that they viewed Disney unfavorably, leaving 9% in the middle of the, I don't care. Now, of those favorable, 22% found the company very favorable. They love Disney, and 21% found the company very unfavorable. Hate Disney. Okay? So this is just of everybody. It's basically 50-50. And I'm saying I'm just going with 50-50 because what's this? 51% favorable, 49% unfavorable, or who gives a shit? And for the sake of Disney, they don't want anybody. They don't want that 10% who gives a shit. They want everybody to be a part of this thing, especially now that they own Lucasfilm and they own Marvel and they own Pixar and they own the Muppets. And like, what do you mean? Disney is associated with all those things. You view all those things unfavorably or don't care. 50% of all people view those things unfavorably or don't care. All right. So first off, these numbers, that's not good. That's not good. 50% don't give a shit or don't like the company, Disney, Mickey Mouse, all the classic princesses and fairy tales, the company that now owns Pixar, one of the most classic animation houses and film houses, period, ever, Marvel Comics and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Lucasfilm and Willow and Indiana Jones and Star Wars and the Muppets. Okay. And this is not to point out, too, from what I could ascertain of the way this survey was handled, it wasn't a question of, hey, how do you feel about Disney right now and the decisions they've been making and the movies that they're putting out over the past bunch of years? Because I can tell you, if you're just asking me generally about Disney, like, hey, how do you feel about Disney, Jesse? My answer is, I'm for them. If your question is, how do you feel about Disney recently? I really think they need to adjust their course. They're going to sail into a rock. They've unfortunately, I think it's too late for them to turn away from the rock that they're sailing into. People like me who love the company have been shouted down as, angry or I don't know, other things than just being people who love this stuff going, you guys are making some big fucking mistakes. But now, it just keeps coming out in black and white. And I told you, I didn't need to see it in black and white. I didn't need to see it like that because I already see it in black and white every single time I stroll down the toy aisle at a Walmart or a Target or a Walgreens or anywhere. I always hit the toy aisle to see what's there, see what's selling, see what people seem to like. I'm one of those weird guys who, like, I'll organize the toy sections that have the toys that I like so that people can find them easier. It's a little OCD. Yeah. This is crazy. It's such a nuanced conversation. And, and it's hard to really sum up the hearts and minds of all of humanity, statistically speaking. But it is actually, I felt like, because of the nature of this poll at this time in Disney's history where they're falling out of popularity, and to actually look at those numbers of, like, where are the people who are saying rom, 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 rom? Is it all one group of people, or is it spread out relatively evenly amongst them? And I would say it is spelt out relatively evenly amongst them. So what? The normal poll was 51% favorable, 40% unfavorable, with 9% whatever in the middle. Okay, so the way they broke this down, and I couldn't get the numbers otherwise, but this is how they did it. They did, for the favorable, if you look at just the Democrats are, as a group, 62% favorable. So the group consensus is 51% favorable. If you look at just Democrats, it only goes up 10%. Okay? Only goes up 10%, or 11%. For the Republicans on the unfavorable side, they're 61% unfavorable. But this is because they're looking at this thing, in this weird way where they're like, oh, well, they're looking at it unfavorable. So Democrats are unfavorable, Republicans are unfavorable, Democrats are favorable, about 60%, 61 and 62%. So, if you look at that way, I found it interesting to look at it like this. That means that if I took 5 Republicans, right? 5 people who identify specifically as Republicans. And mind you, there's another third of the population that has no party affiliation. They have different numbers. I'll get to those in a second. But if I took 5 people who identify as Republicans, only 3 of them are going to bash the current day Star Wars model. 3 of them. 3 of them will be like, yeah, I don't like it. And maybe, perhaps, it'll have something to do with their political beliefs. 2 of them won't do that. 2 of them will either be like, yeah, I still like it. It doesn't really bother me. Or who cares? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. The who cares is in the is who cares in my 3% on this sort of thing. Yeah, they'll be like, okay, yeah, well, but this is the thing, because everybody says that the Republicans are they don't like this. They don't like this is sexism. They don't like it, so you must be a Republican. But wait a second, no. Two out of the 5 people who I round up of Republicans, they won't care, or they'll like it. So 2 out of 5 Republicans, they won't care or they'll like it. 2 out of 5. So now we raise it up to 10. What's that mean? We got 4. 4 out of 6. That's close to half of them. It's close enough. 50-50. It's a little bit more that the Republicans are like, just a little bit more. On the other side of things, you got the 3-2 with the Democrats liking it. You're going to bring the Democrats in, and you're going to say, hey, everybody's really happy with the direction of all these things. 3 of the people are going to say, yeah. And 2 of the people are going to go, no, I actually really don't like it. Or I don't really fucking give a shit. None of these things that you've done have attracted me to your fucking company. I don't give a crap that you're doing stupid virtue signaling. I didn't like Disney yesterday. Why would I like it today? Right? So, again, 2 or 4 out of the 10, and and pretty close to 50% of the group is not exactly in lockstep with the group. I really I find this so interesting to me. This number right here, because you'd imagine, based on all of the press releases that Disney puts out and all the racism and all these things that you see, that it would be a much larger consensus. It wouldn't just go up 10% if you're a Democrat. Clearly, politics and all these things are such a benefit to the conversation. And I do have some more information about that a little bit below that I'm going to get into in a second. But, I mean, look at this. Think about this. 61 and 62% from Republicans and Democrats, reversible, unfavorable, favorable. But what does that really mean? So the median right now of 50-50, if you're a Democrat, which is the demographic they've been playing to, we get a 10% increase in favorability. In Republicans, the demographic that they've been pretty consistently repudiating, you get a 20% down. Which I got to imagine the Republican state of affairs. This company was really widely regarded, by conservatives for so long. So I'm sure this is an even bigger fluctuation than just the fact that it's like, okay, we're going to drop 20% in the favorability route when you go over to Republicans because of things that we're doing here. So already this says to me that making yourself a company that gets involved in politics, it doesn't really move the needle on the people who you're supporting. So, the audience of people who you're supposed to be pleasing, they're not going to be coming out of the woodwork to do shit. They're not going to change their fucking style because you're all of a sudden involved in their politics. However, it does seem that the people who you go against do feel pushed away by you, and they do disappear. You've got, of this group, Republicans, that the 61% that are unfavorable, more than half of the unfavorable, because the 61 here, if we just cut it in half, it would be 30.5%. 35% feel they view Disney as very unfavorable. 35%. And I mean, that's a lot to me too, because when you look at the numbers up top, you see in the general consensus, 40% view it unfavorable in general, with 21% of that viewing it very unfavorable, and 35% of the Republicans viewing it as a 15% increase. But I mean, 15% increase within just looking at that group. So even still then, it's really not that much. But it is statistically significant looking at the numbers, just like this. I really think that this paints a picture of such a mixed bag, especially when you add in the third group of people here. You've got the no party affiliations, the Green Party affiliations, the Libertarians, any of the parties that you and I maybe have ever thought about. I'm not a party guy. I don't like to vote with a party. I think that it just sort of muddies the waters for decision making when you can't just think independently all the time and you have to just back a party. I'm not willing to just back a party if I feel that they're doing something stupid. So, I view everything independently. And there's plenty of people who do like me. In general, I find that people that vote Republican or vote Democrat, they tend to do it because they're like, listen, I'm just trying to make this system work, and we gotta come together and pick something. And I get that. That's a favorable kind of thing to do. So, I mean, everybody has their reasons for doing the things the way they do it. A lot of times people these days will boil down Republicans into sort of like sexist or racist or some sort of nonsense. There are so many reasons to be a Republican, whether it is that it comes from a place of religious belief. And I'm sorry that if you're not a religious person, you shouldn't be reverse judging, prejudging the fact that there are religious people out there. I've been judged by religious people. I've been not judged by religious people. There are some people out there who are wonderful. There are good people in every bad neighborhood. There are bad people in every good neighborhood. And there are, bad people in every religion and good people in every religion. And, it's just like everything has is a mix of stuff. I really think you would be so surprised to see the smorgasbord of people you actually get when you do something like a casting call. That alone. And even then, you're attracting a very certain type of person, somebody who would go out to be on camera or whatever, depending on what kind of casting call you do. But people who would go to a casting call to begin with. When you just go out into the world, there's just such a plethora of types of people. And really the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, they're no different. They really are no different. I understand you can see large gatherings of people who are dressing a little bit similarly or whatever else, it might be, but you don't know. You don't know. Don't judge a book by its cover. I, in particular, and I know I'm not alone, as a kid, I dedicated my life to sort of tricking people because I realized that people did judge a book by its cover, and I thought that was really messed up. One of the reasons why I have tattoos is because I wanted people to misjudge me as some sort of criminal or bad guy on whatever level, because I knew people who had tattoos who were good people, but I saw that was the way that in general society was taking tattoos to mean. Granted, over time that's kind of changed its meaning, but it still has certain connotations. There's certain sort of judgments that go with everybody. And I was like, I don't want anybody to be able to judge me and be correct. I don't want anybody to prejudge me and be correct. But that's what everybody's doing and trying to do all the time. And I actually, like, because of the way I've lived my life, I've turned my life into a real battle of being misunderstood constantly, because I send so many different signals to people because I didn't want them to be able to judge me. I wanted them all to have to get to know me. But not everybody takes the time to get to know you. And in not taking the time to get to know you, it's easy to misjudge you. And you need to realize that it's easy for you to misjudge others. You know, I think it's very easy for us to recognize that we're being misjudged, but not always so easy for us to recognize that we are misjudging others all the time. I remember a long time ago, I went on a kick of looking up different types of supremacists online on the internet. I went and I looked up a black supremacist, you know, somebody who, if you ever look into something like that, they believe that like a lot of the blacks in America are the lost tribe of the Israelites from the Bible. Interesting sort of conspiracy type stuff, but cool conversation. But something that is very, very important to this person as a supremacist. And I looked up white supremacists, former Nazis, people whose grandfathers were Nazis, and religious supremacists, people who believed kooky things like, the people lived with the dinosaurs. Now, I tend not to think that any of these things are so kooky anymore. Granted, the supremacy part is the unfortunate bit of all these different things, but all these different people, they know something. There's something that's happened to them. They feel a little bit persecuted, and there's certain incongruent facts and realities that they've lived or they have in their brain that is stopping them from being able to move on with their lives until the proper conversation is had about this thing that's very important to them. So often they are mad at the same exact things: the system, the financial system, the governmental systems, and these governmental systems, they oppress us all equally. They oppress all the religions and peoples and races and men and women, and set us fighting against each other and whatnot, and generally operate autonomously outside of the collective of humanity. They're like above us on another sphere, making all of these choices on our behalves. But in reality, there's a bunch of nuanced people below them who are showing up to their jobs and doing their thing. And generally, I find, because I'm somebody who really interacts with people in the world, whether it's at comic conventions or hosting TV shows or working in bands and playing concerts, I really have had a lot of experience on planet Earth with people, and generally I find people to be fabulous, and really just like the only thing that you really need to get that from everybody is just to show up places with an idea that people around you could be fabulous, that people might be nice to talk to and might be kind to you and might be cool and might be different and might surprise you. And I'm just constantly surprised by people, and I'm constantly finding unique, wonderful things about them that I want to take for myself, that I'm inspired to bring with me after I've met them. I remember I met this old man and his wife. I just remembered how gentle he was. He was the most gentle man I'd ever met in my life. And there's a whole bunch of people at this retreat that I did in Peru a long time ago now. I did ayahuasca. It was a fun experience. But the people that I met there were really the biggest ones. And people like that man whose name I forget, but I still remember his gentleness, that I decided, like, I want to take a piece of this man and how he is the unique person that he is. They were all unique. All the people that I meet are unique. All the people that I know are unique. I don't know any of these stupid caricatures that I see on TV, on animated shows. I don't know anybody like that. I see these things and I go, yeah, that's just like this stupid idea you have about what a Democrat is, or that stupid idea you have about what a Republican is. It really is. We have a lot of stupid ideas, sort of like racist isn't the right word, but like it's an ist sort of thing that we have about various people who might identify with a group. But the problem is, like, you don't choose to be black or white or whatever it is. You just are black or white or whatever it is. So whatever it is that people think about the white people, I guess that's what people think about me, or whatever people think about the boys. Well, I'm a boy. I got a wee wee. Like I can't represent all men, and I can't represent all white people. I'm just me. Just so happens that, like, if you wanted to look at me and like try to start to sum me up and size me up in all these ways, you can, but it really does you and I both a disservice of how unique and interesting we all are. In the no party affiliation thing, the numbers were a little bit more what's the word? A little bit more unfavorable than the Democrats. Somewhere in the middle, obviously, between the Republicans and the Democrats at 58%. So I don't know the exact number for favorable in the Republicans, but, we're going to put it at somewhere in the vicinity of, 39% or something like that. I mean, as much as 39%. We're imagining, a certain amount of that, probably 10%. Let's say it's 30%. So 30% have a favorable on the Republican side, 62% favorable on the Democrat side. No party has a 58% favorable and 32% unfavorable. So, here, and again, what is this? This is another like 10%. It doesn't matter. See, so this is interesting too, right? So it's 50-50. When you go to the non-party people, the people who aren't like affected by the political thing at all, they more in general have I like it. 58% is almost 10% more than the general consensus, and less unfavorable, which sort of suggests, and granted, I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, it's like 8%, 7% more. But still, that's a decent amount more for no party. People who don't feel super politically motivated, they seem to be less affected by the I like it, you don't like it. But still, this is the same kind of bit here. We got a little sliver of, was it 50, 60, and 32? Yeah, so we just get to the exact same, group that we had before of like two fifths. 2/5 don't like it or don't care, and 3/5 like it. That's it. Men 51 and women 57% favorable. If you look at just the male metric, again, like the main line is 51, so men are main line with the 51, but women 7% more likely to view it as favorable, which was one of the things that actually made me think, oh, well, I wonder if this is too, like, people are just being asked about Disney in general, and plenty of people are like, oh my God, Pocahontas and Beauty and the Beast, I love these movies, and they say it's favorable, but they're not thinking about like the remake of Peter Pan that just got done that they really didn't care for, because they weren't asked specifically about the recent Disney, they were just asked about Disney in general. So women in general a little bit more favorable, small difference. Again, small difference. It's all small difference. It's all small difference, really. I mean, like, the biggest difference is like when you go back and you look at what the possible favorability is for the Republicans, because I don't know exactly, but it's probably like 30%. So the idea that that's like 30% drops to, for favorability, 30% drops to 58%, up to 62%. So, I mean, that's a decent amount. I mean, like the favorability is almost double possibly for the Democrats to the Republicans. But still, double is not quintuple, and double is like, here's one Republican who likes it, and here's here's one Republican who likes it, and here's two Democrats who like it. Okay, there's two Democrats who like it and one Republican who likes it. That's not like a huge ass change. It really isn't. That's yes, the Republicans do have a habit of liking it less.
but it's not mutually exclusive, and clearly a plenty big section of Democrats don't give a shit or don't like it too, as is the case too with the non-party people. Don't like it or don't give a shit as well. Let's see. The thing showed that there was a general consensus amongst parents and stockholders in Disney that staying out of politics would be beneficial to the company. Okay, so this was part of the thing. They asked questions about if they thought that it would matter, which I don't know if it matters whether they think it'll matter or not. It matters whether it matters. And I think already we've shown, looking at these numbers, it clearly does matter. It clearly is hurting more than it is helping. And that tends to be the case whenever you get involved in politics, which is why lots of very wise people in your life probably tell you they don't even vote anymore, or something mysterious along those lines of why they're not getting into it about Donald Trump or whatever it might be, because they just don't see it to be beneficial to be lost in these negative conversations and are trying to do good in other ways. I think those people are pretty wise. And I've known plenty of those people in my lifetime. I remember plenty of those people telling me a thing or two when I was a kid and me being like, man, we got to do something. And I get it. I really do get it. Like, we do got to do something. But the got to do something always seems to be more about like, well, how do we build better systems that have more power to be of benefit to society, that can supersede and have power within the system we have right now as it's currently built, which, as we all know, anybody who's been paying attention, it's corrupt as hell. It's a fucking ridiculous, vicious system that we're in, but we're in it, and we got to do something about it. We do, but politics and the voting and Democrat, Republican, all this stuff, like, that isn't necessarily always the thing. I like to listen to Russell Brand's YouTube channel. I know he's gotten himself into some trouble lately. Seems like weirdness it coming out from so long ago, and I know this man's been on the straight and narrow for a long time. So shout out to Russell. Keep staying on the straight and narrow, man. You're trying to do great good in the world, and I believe that you are. And I know that most of the people who love you and listen to you still are following you. And Russell's great. He just tries to talk about it in terms of, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. We need whole new systems. We need to think about this stuff from the ground up. If we keep playing this stupid two-party game, it's designed to keep us lost and stuck in lockstep for forever. It really is. So, we have to be system breakers. System breakers and system builders. You build the system you build a new system that is designed to basically overtake and crack the old system, and that's how you take over, by basically building a better mousetrap and having everybody come to you because they need to get their hands on that damn thing. Look at what they're doing. It's so much better. It's so much more efficient. It's so much better. And really, we are in a lovely place where the intersection of ancient knowledge is crossing with the intersection of modern knowledge, because for years modern knowledge was completely ignoring ancient knowledge. It's absolutely true. Ancient knowledge was being ignored, dismissed, laughed out of the room by modern knowledge, and modern knowledge has a lot to fucking learn from ancient knowledge. And now ancient knowledge and modern knowledge are coming together, and there's amazing things that are happening. So it is for you, it is in your hands to change the game, to rewrite the book, to flip the script, however you might want to say it, in this world right now. So that's my encouraging thoughts of the day. So let's see. So Disney, so they were asking if people thought it would be a good idea for Disney to stay out of politics, which I don't know necessarily why you would even bother to ask. Like, who gives a shit what they necessarily think? But I was surprised that as much as 25% in some demographics were of the mind that staying in politics was the better idea. I was very surprised about that. But at least 5% more across most demographics thought that getting out was the better way to go. Clearly, with many in the middle of these two ideas somewhere. Okay? The terrible thing about people, and the wonderful thing about people too, is, most people, they give a shit about a limited range of things. And I mean this not like in a disrespectful way, but it's all about sort of like where you find yourself
and what skills would be additionally complementary to the thing that you have found yourself doing. You know, if you're taking care of animals all day, you may find that your political motivations revolve around wildlife and animals and pets and nature and things like that. You may be voting independently for Green Party candidates and pushing for people to, to follow those political candidates and trying to make a change in the world. If you have a small business that's, less than 100,000 employees and you make a decent amount of money, but every single little business change that they make in the government affects you harder than anyone, you may find yourself as a Republican. You might find yourself coming from a Republican family being raised with a lot of those values, coming from a Democratic family being raised with a lot of those values, coming from a religious background, getting to the United States, not really knowing sure what, whose values really match your values. But the Republicans seem to match religious stuff, and you lean a little right, but you're also very liberal because you're an immigrant. And these are the nuances of human beings. We all have them. Everybody has them. Everybody's been made fun of for something. If you're my girlfriend, you got made fun of because you had abs. She had abs, and she got made fun of for having abs. She was also a redhead, and sometimes you get all the shit that fucking redheads get. And if you're a black kid in a white area, you're probably going to get looks or things. And like, if you're different in an area where other people are more the same, people get uncomfortable and they point out your differences. It's not actually this horrible, vicious thing that we tend to make it out to be when somebody reacts like a child, seeing something that they're unaccustomed to, seeing something that challenges their beliefs. I remember I did a terrible thing. I reacted terribly when I was a teenager when I met my first vegetarian, and she explained to me basically why she was a vegetarian. She was at dinner. She was like my brother's girlfriend or something like that, and I yelled at her because it was the first time ever I'd really thought about what I was doing, and I was like, oh my God, I'm part of murdering animals, and I have no idea if these animals are being treated nicely or anything. Holy shit, fuck, I am a part of a thing. And I didn't know, and I lashed out at her because she was pointing this thing out at me, and I couldn't handle it in that moment. We really have to recognize where people are coming from, and what happens when certain information is being brought to them that they want to hear, and when information is being brought to them that they don't. It's such a nuanced world that we live in. And the reason why I love stories and writing stories so much is because it gives you the opportunity to fill people's minds with more characters. And the world, trust me, is filled with characters. The world is filled with characters. Every wonderful character that on some level is based on a real person. Somebody just kept saying that same thing or had that way about them that they liked. And, that uncle that you remember or that friend that you had when you were a kid. And, you guys wind up in these comic books and in these novels and in these films. Your past personalities live on through us when you die. They say only the good die young, so that it really has an effect on us. I mean, how many of you people know someone who died and it really affected your whole school or your whole family? To this day, you guys all remember that person fondly, and you all have tried to carry on a piece of that person in your own personal life so that they are never forgotten. It is a really interesting and nuanced world that we live in. I'm so grateful to live in this world, and I'm constantly surprised by it. I think that there has been this simplifying of people and alliances over the past 10 years or something that's happened in America, and it's really awful. And I'm here to try to take us away from that. If you're out there and you're a Democrat, I love you. If you're out there and you're a Republican, I love you. If you're out there and you're anything in between, I love you. I don't give a shit. If you love this stuff, then I love you. Because for me, that just proves that you have love in your heart. And if you have love in your heart, then that means you'll probably love me too, because I got love in my heart and I love the same things you love. And that's a start. That's the beginning of a relationship, is mutual love. That's why I'm a geek, because I believe that being a geek is the beginning of a mutual relationship with mankind, based in love, based in sharing, based in honoring the past, based in honoring artists and craftsmen and the great things that life has to offer. Stories. Stories. You know, they tell you to live in the now, and living in the now is great. You can get up to all sorts of things in the now. In the now, you can be on the adventure, in an adventure, in the middle of it, you know, at the top of the roller coaster's peak. You know, so the being in the now will lead you to all sorts of aspects of the peaks and the valleys of the story. But to be able to have perspective enough to see a story and to see the ebb and the flow and the rises and the falls and the things that make the story such a wonderful journey. I really believe that stories are the things that help us to appreciate life, which when we're living it and being in the now, sometimes we're in the valleys, within the peaks and valleys of the ebb and flow of life. It's very easy to get stuck focusing on that valley, focusing on the floor, how low you've gone or how far you've fallen. Look, I was just over there and now look, I'm here. But you know it continues on. But life is a roller coaster in the dark. So you tend to be like, well, I was just over there and I could feel that it was good, and now I'm here and it feels not so good. But just remember, can't rain all the time. That great line from The Crow, that song, can't rain all the time. It can't rain all the time. And really, like, sort of like, the longer you live in sorrow and negative energy, the more eventually something's got to give. You know, that's why that saying exists. Something's got to give. The levee's going to break from the weight of the thing. Eventually, everything's going to burst forth. This is like become like a super I mean, I knew it was going to be a super spiritual conversation to have this today. When I got into this show and doing this right from the very beginning, I had all these ideas about what I was going to do, and I started to meditate, and I kept getting inspired to kind of go on these like diatribes about the silliness of the idea of all this modern day sexism and racism and all this stupidity that they keep saying is in geek culture, and the whole world, we're just riddled with all of these white supremacists lurking around every corner, and I don't see that. I don't see that. And I feel like most people live a smaller life than I do. And I'm not, please, I don't say that to try to judge anybody. I've been very, very grateful to have the life that I have, where I'm fortunate that I get to travel a lot. And I'm fortunate that I get to go to a concert here, there, or a party, or have some experience where I get to meet more people than I think your average person will meet in their lifetime, based on reading, you know, what some of like your average people do meet, how many places your average person does go. Your average person, unfortunately, doesn't travel as much as you might imagine, and doesn't get to interact with as many people as you might imagine. And and the quickest way to not be remotely ist on any level is travel. And, we all need more and more travel. We really do, because we just kind of sit in our box and we're told things by our TV. And it's very easy to just believe whatever the television tells us to. But when you actually are out in the world interacting with it as often as humanly possible, you are experiencing what I do and what everybody else does, the infinite plethora of life and personality, the diversity of personality, the diversity of interests. There's so many, and there's so many people, there's so many groups that have formed around various interests, and it's easier than ever to get yourself out there more and more, and I really encourage you to do so. But remember, as you're lumping into groups, remember that you are going to lump into groups like everybody else is lumped into groups, and you're going to be focused on certain things. And this is going to be great because it's going to make you an expert in certain things, but it's not going to make you an expert in everything. So, try to leave the conversations open to the people who are in the trenches, and try not to be so partisan in all of your thinking about all these things. Clearly comic books and films and TV, the introduction to politics into all these things, it queers the creation of such material, and in general it just makes it all worse for it. I've said before about, representation for women. So much of the representation for women these days is not the representation that we want. And I'm a feminist, I granted I don't really call myself a feminist anymore, but, I was raised by my mom. She kind of stopped calling herself one at a certain point when she didn't really like how it was defended. But when I was younger, she used to call herself a feminist. And, I was certainly raised with a lot of feminist ideas. My grandmother was really a big feminist, and she really put less emphasis on the boys and more emphasis on the girls, raising some badass women. My mom, I think, tried to balance that out a little bit more than her mother had. But there's been a big emphasis on the women in my life and the power of women and beauty of women, blah blah blah. And I say blah 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 because this is like all old hat to me. I love everybody and we're all equal and but I just want you to understand where all of these conversations that I'm having with you are coming from. They're coming from a place of loving the art, wanting to see better things done with it, understanding how it was wrecking things before when we weren't allowed to make the lead a woman. We weren't allowed to make the lead anything but a white guy. That was like fucking up a lot of the creativity yesterday. Now we've got new rules that are fucking up the creativity today. And because, it's been like that for so long, so good, fuck the white guys. It's fine when we do it to, you did it to the black people and Asian people for forever. Now we're going to do it to the white guy. No, let's stop the reverse hazing thing. Let's just end it, and let's start honoring this stuff better than we have been for a long time. And let's stop demonizing each other and assuming all these things about each other based on one hot take on Twitter or whatever it might be. Or I know you're a Republican, so you must think this, Chuck Dixon, or something like that. Chuck Dixon, he's such a great example. Chuck Dixon basically got blacklisted from the DC Comics system. He was one of the greatest creatives that they have. Greatest creatives. He's written some of the best Batman and Batman-related character stories that DC's ever put out, and he got blacklisted for being a Republican. I had no idea he was a Republican. I've read 1,000 comic books that he's written, literally 1,000 comics that he's written, and I never had any suspicion about what his political background was. Never thought about it once. And then when I found out, I went, "Oh, really? Huh? Okay." This is the thing. Wonderful writers and creative people. It doesn't matter. My religious and political beliefs will only ever come into the equation as a creative person when it's appropriate. When it's appropriate, things that I've learned and witnessed on my own and seen or whatever, they may make its way into the book because that has value under the right circumstances. But any writer or creative person worth their salt knows that they want to be the right answer to the problem. Like every comic book to a large degree, unless you're creating something from soup to nuts as an independent whatever, most of the time, you're hired to do a job. You're hired to write the Hulk. And the point of this is to tell a story featuring the Hulk that scratches the belly and the itch of the people who like the Hulk. That's the job. So now we go in there and we try to do that job. If there's an appropriate place and we have something interesting and novel from our lives to add into the thing, that may happen. But pumping yourself into your material is the mark of a fucking hack, as far as I'm concerned, in a writer. I mean, I only just recently, for the first time ever in my career writing, I have a little bit of a self-insert character in a comic book that I wrote. And it was only because the people that I co-created the thing with had already used my name to describe this other character as like an elder statesman of the family, and I was like, oh, it's like a family, kind of reminded me of my dad, and I was like, oh, I know a lot about family. I come from a big family, and I have some stories there, some experience there that I could probably offer that would be funny, humorous situations or ways in which people might interact. So I'm like, okay, I will, under these circumstances, maybe write myself into the equation in a little way, some version of me, some version of my dad, some version of my brothers and my sister, so that I can have a place to work from. But I'm a 40, what am I, 41? So 25 years of working on comic book scripts, and it took me 23 years to do it. Because it was the first time in 23 years where it was really appropriate. And right now there's a real penchant in comics and film, I think, to literally make yourself the protagonist and just like let's have the whole thing be reflective of you and take over the whole thing. And we're really like moving out of the way for all the people who want to be very unique in their sexuality or whatever else. And that's okay with me. I love that. I love the really unique people. But at the same time, they have to be talented and credible people. I like unique people. That's my favorite kind of person is a unique person. But they also have to earn these writing jobs. They also have to do the job of telling a great Hulk story. They can't just turn Bruce Banner into themselves and tell us a little personal story about them. They have to make that work for Bruce Banner and Hulk or whatever else. And they have to still tell a story where Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk and he smashes some shit, because that's really the job. And I think a lot of people have lost sight of that job, and they're lost in their own politics. And the point of it here really is that if you do this, you will not only lose the counter-political side of things. So if you're a Democrat and you're putting a lot of Democratic shit in your writing, not only are you going to lose the Republicans, you're going to lose a lot of the Democrats as well, because it affects the experience in an unnatural way. It makes all of your escapist entertainment into non-escapist entertainment. People really forget Star Wars and Willow and Indiana Jones and all of the Marvel shit and all of Pixar. It's all escapist. It's all of it. Animation. We're escaping. Escape. Let us escape. Don't pull us back into reality. Remember this. I've said before. I said this to my dad a long time ago, and I know he definitely took it to heart. I said, what a terrible thing. And for those of you who don't know, my father's D. Snider from Twisted Sister. He's really one of my favorite musicians. I think he just has so much to offer, so many things to say to people. And he got really nervous at a certain point in time that white supremacists were using his music as a battle cry. And I think he's actually off base that this is really true. And again, this is like the coloring of the thing. But I said to him, hey, Dad, I can't think of anybody who needs to hear your music more than a white supremacist. Wouldn't it be terrible if you speaking loudly about politics or whatever online might make somebody feel like they were backed into a corner and that they didn't want to hear anything you had to say anymore. And now you lost access to that person. You lose the ability to connect and communicate with them because you've demonized them as being, one note evil because of one little thing that you know about them. That's really the thing. It's like, it's so easy to misunderstand a text message from your mom or your dad or your brothers or sisters, anybody close to you, and you just you get into those fights from misunderstanding a text message. Just imagine all of the fights and misunderstandings that people are getting into online all the time, at every moment of every day, and we assume that we know so much. We don't know anything. Some anonymous screen name and a hashtag and a couple sentences, and we put together a whole story in our mind. And I've seen it with my kids, man. You know, like they've seen all these clips of these different horror movies and stuff, and they will be terrified. I'll know that they'll be having like nightmares about some of these horror characters that they saw in like a 30-second clip montage video on YouTube earlier that day. Then meanwhile, we go and watch the movie and they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Of course it wasn't so bad. Of course your imagination of what it would be is worse than what it actually is. It always is. That's why films by Alfred Hitchcock still fucking hold up to this day, because your imagination of what it is and what it could be is always worse than what it is actually. And the answers in all those Alfred Hitchcock movies are relatively mundane because they've been done and redone by other films to death. And it seems like so pedestrian when you finally get to the end of one of those Alfred Hitchcock movies. But they still pull you through the whole time. And you're like, what? What's going on? How's it going to happen? Oh, no. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Because you don't know what's going on. It's the mystery. People forget. People forget this stuff. And it just applies like this in society with people. And it's very easy for us to start demonizing and creating monsters where there are none. So I'm calling for everybody to please stop doing that. Use these numbers as your proof that it's fucking relative, man. It's relative. 2 out of 5 Republicans said they still like Disney, Star Wars, and all the other fucking shit or whatever it is, or didn't give a shit. 2 out of Disney Democrats say they fucking don't like it either, or they don't give a shit. It's fucking comparable, guys. It's comparable. It's 50-50. I rest my case. Everyone is statistically less enthusiastic about Disney now than they were yesterday. And I think if the question was asked specifically about modern day Disney and not Disney in general, you may have gotten a significantly more people weighing in hard against Disney. But still, I think half disliking or indifferent to Disney at this point in the company's lifespan, when it owns Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel, and the Muppets, to have 50% now checked out, I don't know what the previous numbers were, but I imagine they were quite a bit higher than this. Anyway, I'm your friend, Jesse Blaze Snider, and you can write to me at jesseblaze@jessesnider.com or follow me on the Twitter or X or Tweeter, Sweeter, whatever the fuck it's called, at Coolest Geek JBS. I love you. Join me Saturday and again next Wednesday for another fun-tastic installment of the Coolest Geek Alive!
It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider.
I'm a genius.
Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I played that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Cat in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right on text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top. Awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
The podcast playground. Hooray!